Good morning, good morning. The end of summer vacation is a special time when we still spend a bit of time on terraces and balconies, when we start thinking about what will soon be happening in the garden, because autumn is just around the corner. And this is the time when we have a lot of different plants in the garden, many of them at the end of their blooming period, which we can use for decoration, especially for decorations that will adorn our rooms or, for example, the terrace for a longer time. I miss having arrangements made of slightly dried summer flowers here. And so I'm glancing with one eye at my Annabelle Hydrangeas, which have gotten a bit broken, and I'd like to use them. That's why in this episode I'll suggest an arrangement in a vessel made of drying plants, where the main role will be played by the flower heads of Annabelle Hydrangea. And just to clarify a bit, because lately there have been a lot of decorative and floristry related topics appearing on the channel. They appear so that you don't forget that, above all, I'm also a florist, because many of you write to me saying, Hubert, show more floristry. This is exactly that little touch of floristry that will appear on the channel, but it will also show up for another reason, because very soon, actually any moment now, episodes from our second visits as part of the Wow Garden project will be released, and there, as you might expect, there will be bouquets for $0. Bouquets not only in the form of bouquets, but also as decorations. And that's why today I'm mentioning this, so you get used to the idea that we'll be spending the next month with videos from the Wow Garden project. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done it yet, I would be really grateful, because it really is fuel for me to keep going. As I mentioned, new projects are coming up, and it's really a huge dose of energy that I get from you. You can also share this video somewhere and let me know if you do it yourself. Decorations for Zero Zotis. I've already chosen the container. It's black. I hope I'm matching it here. Black apron, pruner in hand. So now it's time for us to go together to the garden to pick plants for this arrangement. And as I mentioned, the main role here will be played by the inflorescences of Annabelle Hydrangea. The plants are picked. Annabelle Hydrangea still with leaves. At my place it's already starting to dry out a bit. Of course, in different regions it's in different condition. It actually looks different everywhere. In some places it's still white. At my place it's already kind of light green. It's getting drier now, so this is the right time to, well, break it off if it's snapped, remove its leaves and get it ready to put into the arrangement. This is plant number 1. Plant number 2 is garlic summer drummer. Remember, these are the tall garlics that actually bloom the latest. It looks very good already dried. It's not completely dried yet, but it's already very good to use in this kind of arrangement. I also have smaller, more dried garlic bulbs, so bulbous garlic. It's already kind of grayish, but I think that's its structure, that tight structure, those little flowers that are here a bit got tangled and dried out. They will go very well with the whole inflorescence from the hydrangea. And I also have so-called looseners. So the plant that was a mystery in one of the recent videos, which not everyone recognized. Listen, some people claimed it was baby's breath. It's not baby's breath. It's actually broad-leaved limonium, beautifully blooming. Look, it's actually been 2 weeks since we recorded that episode, and there are still beautiful flowers here, so it's still blooming. He will be our relaxer, and the next relaxer will be completely in a straw color. Inflorescences from the Shamsia cespitosa. This is a really delicate relaxer, and I'll make a composition out of these plants. It might turn out that I'll add something else at the end, but for now I don't plan on it. The composition container is ready. There's a sponge inside for arranging dry compositions. Not the type you soak. The container is very... my favorite. Why? Because I call it Sputnik. Because this vessel opens up really well here, which allows us to create a composition right on this collar, so coming out of this collar. And that's what I'll do. The composition will be, listen, rather rich. Look, the limonium has grown a lot. To loosen up the limonium nicely, remember that you need to move it around a bit if it really is in such a compact form. Actually, just the limonium itself, if I put it into this arrangement, it would already look pretty good. So maybe we'll do it this way, that I'll first make one plant, then I'll add the next one, and we'll... Actually, you'll be writing in the comments at which point you think the arrangement looked the best. Oh, this is great fun. At the very beginning, I'm adding just limonium. Actually, I'm sticking them into the sponge at different levels and pulled out slightly. And remember, you'll be able to write... actually, I'm asking you to write down at which point this composition looks best to you at different levels, because it will be much bigger than just this limonium. So I'll start by making the size of this composition right away. You can put in these branches, both bigger and smaller ones. I'll leave a little bit for later, just in case, so I can add more if I'm missing some somewhere. So does it look good? I think it's already pretty good. There's still limonium left in the flower bed, a lot of it. I'm one of those people who pick plants for vases, for arrangements from the garden, especially those that look really nice when they're blooming, but once they start to fade, they don't look as good anymore. And limonium is exactly that kind of plant. It really looks great when it's blooming. When it has lilac purple flowers, but once they fade, it's kind of a grayish brown cloud, which of course creates some structure in the garden, but it doesn't look as spectacular anymore. All right. The first stage is ready. Who likes the first stage? Please write in the comments. And the next plant will be the Annabelle Hydrangea. Now look, limonium is like the icing on the cake, let's say. We can spread it out a little, put the hydrangea both lower and higher. Of course, remember to remove those fresh green leaves, because they will absolutely wilt here in a moment and it will look bad. I would like to make a composition that will have different levels, so it will be a bit deeper, just like here. Some of it will stick out higher. There will be smaller and larger hydrangeas, and that's exactly what will happen. Thanks. The next one is done differently. It's not as easy now. Something is starting to appear. An element of a thicker plant, so already a bit more lavish, but in my view also interesting. By the way, I'm going to make a mess on the terrace. I spent half the weekend cleaning the terrace, and now soon it'll be just the same again. But flowers and composition are both important. I'll clean up. Look, I have hydrangeas of different sizes, so they can actually be at different levels. This one is probably a bit too big, so I'll trim it a little here. it will be smaller. Remember, you can adjust the size of the plants because if the composition doesn't really fit, it's better to take a little off. Make it a little smaller. If we add more, we'll run into issues and need to add another. But still, that's something. It will look more interesting. I don't know if I won't have to take one more hydrangea to... Yep. Aha, okay. All right. And we spread it out a bit. Another one would be useful here and here, so I'll quickly break one off. Listen, I added the hydrangeas. For now, I'll finish the second stage, which is the limonium and hydrangeas. And now please write if you think that if you like this arrangement the most at this point, then write that. The arrangement is hydrangea plus limonium, and now I will add alliums. We can treat alliums in such a way that both the smaller and the larger ones are one stage. To avoid dividing it further, there will be 4 stages. So limonium with hydrangea plus allium, and finally tufted hairgrass. I have alliums in 2 sizes to use them at different heights so that to show those additional structures. Oh, it hid itself nicely like that. The smaller ones will be higher up and the big ones are slightly hidden. I'll probably run out too. Having a life. Look, as I add these smaller garlic bulbs and pull them up a bit above the main part, meaning those that are visually heavier, visually the hydrangeas create a pleasant space for me. They add lightness, even though they're quite compact and dense. I added garlic. Of course, you can add more if you want. You surely know that the greatest skill is to be able to tell yourself, stop, I won't add anything more. You absolutely have to learn this. Of course, I would add more here, but let's say, stop, we don't add anything more. And as I usually say, it's acceptable. So whether it's acceptable or not, I added a third element, which is garlic. Now you can write whether you like it more after I added the garlic or the previous versions. And at the very end, I add the inflorescences of already dried Agrostis capillaris. It's so thin and so delicate that I'll be adding it in groups. Maybe not in groups of 10 or so, but in groups of 4 or 5, I think it's going to look good. While I'm at it, that it gives lightness. Of course, this composition, I could still add a hydrangea here, because it's really missing here, but I can take this form, build the whole form out of these delicate elements, and now comes the most important moment, when you need to focus and observe closely. Then rotate the composition from all sides so these light elements can be added where needed, which will build the whole composition for us. So I'm getting to work. I'm adding. The limonium has already hidden itself a bit, but that was its role. That it's actually supposed to hold this composition together to define the shape. In reality, as I said before, the hydrangeas are meant to play the leading role here. I still have some limonium, so I'll add it soon. I said I'd add it at the end because actually here it's missing. With this amount of plants already, yeah, this is the moment when actually these plants that are dried out, like let's say these Agrostis capillaris, I can only somewhere here just add more. I don't even really have to anymore. Really press them into the sponge. If you're doing this for yourself and no one else will try to take them out, move them around and so on. So that's how you can do it. From every side, be meticulous. observe and add those stalks from the festuca grass. Thanks, it'll be ready soon. Wish me luck. Voila, as they say, the composition is ready. I added those smallest elements in the form of festuca grass. And now we have the full set, 4 elements, from which I created the composition. Write in the comments whether this final one appeals to you the most, or maybe one of the earlier versions. Also, let me know if you liked, in general, or the whole composition and the idea together with this vessel. As I mentioned, I really like this vessel. In fact, it has already appeared on my channel several times.